My name is Natalie Vaughn. I am 35 years old, and I live in a quiet apartment in Chicago. I work as a senior structural engineer for a large construction firm. My job is very straightforward. I look at architectural plans, I calculate the physical weight of materials, and I determine how much stress a building can take before it collapses. I am paid a high income to make sure things do not fall apart. Because of my profession, I live a highly disciplined life. I wake up at exactly 6 a.m. every day. I do not like messes, and I do not like unpredictable situations. I take my responsibilities very seriously. For a very long time, my biggest weakness was my deep sense of obligation to my family. I believed that if I provided enough support, my family would eventually value me. I was wrong. My family consists of 3 other people. My mother is Elaine Vaughn. She is a woman who is completely obsessed with her social image. She cares primarily about how she is perceived by her neighbors and her friends. She loves having status in the wealthy suburb where she lives. She does not control her children by yelling. She controls us by making us feel guilty. My mother does not see me as a daughter. She simply sees me as a financial source. My father is Richard Vaughn. He is a very passive man. If there is a problem in the house, he will walk into another room. He always knows when my mother is doing something wrong, but he never objects to it. He completely avoids conflict. He is always more loyal to his wife than he is to his children. Then there is my younger sister, Chloe Vaughn. Chloe is 28 years old. In our family, she is the golden child. She does not have a traditional job. She lives an influencer lifestyle on social media. She spends her days taking photos of her coffee, her clothes, and her vacations. She is incredibly selfish and completely dependent on our parents. Chloe genuinely believes she deserves to be financially supported by others without having to work for it. My parents live in a large house in the suburb of Naperville, Illinois. It is a very nice neighborhood. The house has 5 bedrooms, a large front lawn, and is valued at approximately $1.1 million. However, my parents cannot afford this house. For the past 4 years, I have been the person paying their mortgage. Every single month, on the first day of the month, I transfer exactly $4,800 to their bank account. I have never missed a payment. Over the last 4 years, I have given them approximately $230,000. I pay this money because my mother told me they would lose the house if I did not help them. I pay it because I am the responsible older daughter. This story officially begins on a normal Tuesday evening. I am sitting alone in my apartment in Chicago. I just finished eating dinner. I pick up my smartphone to check the internet before I go to sleep. I open the Instagram app. The very first post on my screen catches my attention immediately. It is a post from my sister, Chloe. It is a series of photos from a large party. The pictures show a long, expensive table decorated with white and gold flowers. There are tall, expensive bottles of champagne on the table. In the center of the first photo, I see my family. My mother, my father, and Chloe are sitting close together. They are all smiling brightly at the camera. They are wearing expensive formal clothes. It is my parents' 40th wedding anniversary party. I look at the caption under the photo. Chloe wrote exactly 5 words. The caption says, "Family only. Finally complete." I look at the picture again. I am not in the photo. I was not invited to this party. I am their oldest daughter. I pay for the roof over their heads, and I am not there. I do not cry. I do not throw my phone. I just feel an immediate, physical shock in my chest. I stare at the screen and process the reality of the situation. I was completely erased from my own family. They took a public photo, called themselves complete, and deliberately left me out. Sitting on my couch, I look at that photo, and memories from my childhood start to play in my head. This is not a new behavior from them. It has always been this way. I remember when I was a child. Chloe was very young, maybe 5 years old. She would make messy scribbles on a piece of paper using crayons. My mother would take those scribbles, put them in expensive wooden frames, and hang them proudly on the living room wall. A few years later, when I was in middle school, I won a national award for an academic competition. I brought the large certificate home. I was proud of it. I handed it to my mother. She did not frame it. She took the certificate, folded it, and put it out of sight inside a kitchen drawer. I remember her exact words to me on that day. She looked at me coldly and said, "Don't show off." That was the fundamental rule of my existence in their house. I was the child who achieved things, but I was not the child who was allowed to receive love or recognition. I was just supposed to be quiet and useful. This pattern continued directly into my adulthood. As I stare at Chloe's Instagram post, my mind goes through a fast montage of the last few years. I remember 2 years ago, when my father's car broke down. My mother called me crying. I immediately transferred money to fix their car. I remember last year, when my father had minor surgery. I paid his expensive hospital bills because they said they had no savings. I remember logging into my bank account every month to pay the $4,800 mortgage. And then, I remember last December. They did not even invite me to our family Christmas dinner. They told me they were just having a quiet night, but I later saw photos of them hosting a large holiday party. I look at the phone screen one more time. The facts are very clear. They only remember I exist when something breaks and needs to be paid for. My family needs me, but they do not need me to exist. They only love the version of me that pays their bills. I close the Instagram app. I put my phone face down on the table. I sit in the quiet room and think about what I need to do next. I continue to look at the photos on my sister's Instagram account. I zoom in on the background of the pictures. I want to see exactly what kind of event this is. My family hosted this 40th wedding anniversary gala at a very famous luxury steakhouse located in downtown Chicago. I know this restaurant. It is an extremely expensive place. The tables are large, the lighting is formal, and the service is high-end. It is the exact type of place my mother, Elaine, loves because it makes her look wealthy and important to other people. As I study the images, a specific memory from a few weeks ago comes back to me. I remember a brief phone call I had with my mother. During that call, she casually mentioned her upcoming 40th anniversary. I asked her what the plans were. She used a very polite, dismissive tone of voice. She told me I could not attend the dinner because seating is limited. She made it sound like it was an intimate, private dinner with just her and my father. She made me believe there simply was no physical space for me at the table. Because I am used to her excuses, and because I do not like to cause conflict, I accepted her explanation. I did not ask any more questions. But now, looking at the photos on my phone screen, I see the absolute truth. I scroll to the second photo in Chloe's post. Then the third. Then the fourth. The seating is not limited at all. It is a massive event. In the background of the photos, I see many different people. I see my parents' neighbors from the Naperville suburb sitting at the tables drinking wine. I see several of Chloe's young influencer friends eating expensive steaks. I even see distant relatives who live in other states smiling for the camera. The restaurant is full of people. There are dozens of guests. The realization hits me directly. The seating was never limited. They had plenty of space for neighbors, for my sister's friends, and for relatives we rarely speak to. They deliberately chose to exclude me. They went out of their way to make sure I was not there. They planned a massive celebration of their family, and they actively decided that I am not part of it. They only love the version of me that pays their bills. They need me to pay the $4,800 monthly mortgage, but they do not need me to exist as a person in their lives. I feel a cold, focused anger. I do not want to cry. I do not want to call them and ask why they did this. I do not want to beg for their attention. For 35 years, I have stayed quiet. For 35 years, I have absorbed their disrespect and paid for their mistakes. I am done being quiet. I look at the comment section under Chloe's photo. Her caption still says, "Family only." Finally complete. There are already comments from her followers praising my parents. I tap the comment box. I use my keyboard. I type a very direct message. I do not use any emotional words. I do not say I am hurt. I state a financial fact. I type exactly this. Congratulations. From now on, the mortgage and taxes are yours. I check the spelling. I read the sentence one more time. Then I press send. The comment appears immediately at the top of the feed for everyone to see. Every neighbor, every friend, and every follower who looks at that post will now see my comment. They will all know exactly who pays for the lifestyle my family is showing off. I put my phone down on my coffee table. I wait. I know exactly how my mother and my sister react to things that threaten their public image. The reaction is incredibly fast. Less than 10 minutes later, I refresh the Instagram page on my phone. The post is completely gone. Chloe has deleted the entire post, including all the photos and my comment. The public display of their perfect family is erased because the truth was exposed. Then my phone begins to vibrate. The screen lights up. It is a phone call from my mother. I do not answer it. The phone stops ringing, and then it immediately starts ringing again. This time it is my sister. I do not answer. For the next hour, my phone does not stop making noise. The silence I usually experience in my apartment is completely shattered. I look at the notifications on my screen. I have 27 missed calls. I have 12 text messages. I open the text messages to read them. I do not reply, I just read. My mother's text message is not an apology. She does not explain why she lied about the limited seating. She only cares about how she looks to other people. She texts me, "You humiliated the family." My sister's text message is entirely dismissive. She does not take any responsibility. She texts me, "You are too sensitive." I look at the messages. My father, Richard, sends nothing. He remains completely silent and passive, exactly as he always does. He knows his wife and younger daughter are wrong, but he avoids the conflict. I do not reply to my mother. I do not reply to Chloe. I turn off the ringer on my phone. I place the phone on the kitchen counter. I leave them in total silence. I have made my statement, and I fully intend to keep my promise. The financial support is over. I wake up the next morning at my usual time in my Chicago apartment. I make a cup of black coffee and sit at my kitchen island. I open my personal laptop and navigate directly to my primary bank account portal. For the past 4 years, I have been paying the mortgage on my parent house. The house is located in the Naperville suburb, and the monthly mortgage payment is exactly $4,800. I have an automated recurring transfer set up in my bank's electronic system. On the 28th of every month, my bank automatically routes $4,800 to their account, so the money clears before the first day of the new month. Over the last 4 years, I have sent them a total of approximately $230,000. I click on the Scheduled Transfers tab. I see the pending transaction for the upcoming month. I move my cursor over the Edit button. A drop-down menu appears. I select the option to cancel the transfer. The website prompts me with a final confirmation screen, asking if I am sure I want to permanently delete this recurring payment. I click yes. I stop transferring the mortgage money. This is the very first time I have stopped paying them in 4 years. I close my laptop. I go to my job as a senior structural engineer. I look at architectural plans, and I calculate physical loads. I do not think about my family's financial situation. I just wait for the inevitable reaction. I know exactly how the banking system works. I know that in a few days, the first of the month will arrive. My parents' bank will attempt to pull the $4,800 from their checking account to pay the mortgage. The money will not be there. A few days pass. The first of the month arrives. The automated system tries to collect the funds and fails. My family immediately panics. The silence that followed my public Instagram comment ends abruptly. While I am sitting at my desk at work, my phone screen lights up. My mother, Elaine, starts sending me text messages. She does not mention the 40th anniversary party. She does not apologize for excluding me from the family gala. She only cares about the missing funds. Her first text message is very short and direct. She writes, "The bank called." I look at the message, but I do not type a reply. 10 minutes later, she sends a second text message. She writes, "There's a problem with the payment." I still do not reply. I place my phone face down on my desk. Half an hour later, my phone vibrates again. My mother sends a third message. This time, she changes her strategy. She tries to manipulate me by pretending she cares about my well-being. She writes, "Are you okay?" I analyze her behavior logically. My mother controls her children by using guilt. She is not asking if I am okay because she loves me. She is asking if I am okay because the financial machine that funds her lifestyle in the suburb has suddenly stopped working. She sees me as a financial source, not as a human being. Because I do not answer my mother's text messages, my younger sister gets involved. Chloe does not text me directly. Instead, she uses her public platform. Chloe lives an influencer lifestyle and genuinely believes she is a golden child who deserves to be provided for without working. She goes on social media and posts a new status where she plays the victim. I open her profile to read it. Chloe's post says, "Some people forget who raised them." It is a very calculated and entirely false statement. She wants her followers to think I am an ungrateful daughter who abandoned her loving family. She completely ignores the fact that I am the one who has been paying for the roof over her head. She is 28 years old. She is incredibly selfish, and she is entirely dependent on our parents. I read my mother's desperate text messages, and I read my sister's passive-aggressive post. I see exactly who they are. They are a family that needs me, but they do not need me to exist. They only love the version of me that pays. I do not reply to any of them. I put my phone in my desk drawer. Later that afternoon, I go to the break room and talk to my colleague, Marcus Reed. Marcus is a person who has always seen the exact truth about my family dynamic. I tell him that I finally canceled the recurring transfer. He tells me I did the right thing. I return to my engineering blueprints. I have completely cut off the money. I assume they will panic for a few weeks and then eventually figure out a way to pay their own bills. I assume the worst part of this conflict is over. I am completely wrong about that. A few weeks pass since I canceled the automatic mortgage transfer. I go to work every day. I work as a senior structural engineer. I look at blueprints, I calculate the physical weight of construction materials, and I make sure buildings are safe. I do not think about my family. I assume my mother and my sister are simply angry about the missing $4,800. I think the worst part of this conflict is over. I am completely wrong. One afternoon, I finish my work at the engineering firm. I drive back to my apartment building in Chicago. I walk into the main lobby and go to the mailroom. I open my small metal mailbox. Inside, there are a few advertisements and one official envelope. The envelope is a letter from my bank. It is addressed directly to my full legal name, Natalie Vaughn. I do not think much of it. I assume it is a standard privacy policy update or a routine statement for my personal checking account. I take the elevator up to my apartment. I unlock my door, walk inside, and put my keys on the kitchen counter. I open the envelope. I pull out a thick stack of folded paper. I look at the first page. It is not a standard bank statement. It is a formal legal notice. I read the text at the top of the page. The document is a notification about a mortgage refinance. The property listed on the document is my parents' house in the Naperville suburb. I continue reading down the page. I see the loan amount. The total amount of the new loan is exactly $720,000. I am immediately confused. My parents do not make enough money to qualify for a $720,000 loan. My mother cares only about her social image, and my father is an entirely passive man. Neither of them has the stable income required to support this massive amount of debt. I read further down the document to understand exactly how this loan was approved by the bank. Then I see my own name. According to the official bank document, I am listed as the guarantor for this refinance loan. The paperwork clearly states that I am legally and financially responsible for this $720,000 debt if my parents fail to make the monthly payments. I look at the date printed on the document. The transaction was finalized and executed exactly 2 months ago. I turn to the last page of the document. At the bottom of the page, there is a designated signature line for the guarantor. There is a signature on that line. It is my exact signature. I sit down on my kitchen stool. I stare at the piece of paper in my hands. I do not panic. I do not cry. My mind works very fast. I analyze the facts in front of me just like I analyze the structural load of a building at my job. Fact 1. There is a new loan for $720,000. Fact 2. The loan was taken out 2 months ago. Fact 3. My name is signed on the guarantor line. Fact 4. I never signed this document. The realization hits me completely. My family did not just take my money to pay their $4,800 monthly mortgage. When they realized they wanted more money, they did not ask me. They deliberately stole my identity. They tied me to a massive debt without my knowledge. They took out a $720,000 loan against the house. If they stop paying this loan, the bank will not just take their house. The bank will ruin my personal credit, seize my bank accounts, and come after my own assets. My family is willing to destroy my entire financial future just to fund their lifestyle in the suburb. This is not a family disagreement anymore. This is a severe financial crime. I look at my signature on the paper again. I know for an absolute fact that I did not sign it. But I need to know exactly how they managed to trick the bank's security system. I need to understand the exact mechanics of this fraud. I pick up my cell phone. I am not going to call my mother, Elaine. I am not going to call my father, Richard. I am going to call the bank. I do not wait. I immediately pick up my cell phone and dial the customer service number printed on the bank document. I navigate the automated system and wait on hold for several minutes. Finally, a bank manager answers my call. He introduces himself as Daniel Harper. His voice is completely professional and entirely neutral. I speak clearly. I tell him my name is Natalie Vaughn and I am calling about the $720,000 refinance loan. I state directly that I am listed as the guarantor, but I did not authorize this transaction. Daniel Harper asks for my personal identification information to access the file. I provide it. I hear him typing on his keyboard. After a moment, he confirms that he is looking at the official loan documents. Ms. Vaughn, the file shows that this refinance was fully executed and finalized 2 months ago, Daniel Harper says. The guarantor's signature is on the electronic contract. I did not sign that contract. I tell him. I need to know exactly how this loan was approved. Daniel Harper maintains his neutral tone. He explains the bank's security protocols. He tells me that the document was signed using electronic verification. He says that the digital signature matches my previous records perfectly. I ask him about the location of the signature. I know that electronic documents track IP addresses. Daniel Harper checks the system logs. He reads the IP address to me. I recognize the numbers immediately. It is the exact IP address of my parents' house. The system recorded the signature coming directly from their home in the Naperville suburb. I ask him the most important question. I ask how the identity verification was bypassed. They would need access to my personal accounts to complete the two-factor authentication, I state. Daniel Harper reviews the file again. He explains the exact mechanism. He tells me that the electronic verification was routed through an old joint account. I close my eyes. I remember the account. When I was a teenager, my mother, Elaine, opened a joint bank account with me. I have not used that account in many years. I completely forgot it existed. But my mother did not forget. She kept her access to that account. She used that old joint account to bypass the bank's security and verify my identity. I thank Daniel Harper for his time and hang up the phone. I sit in my apartment. I understand exactly what happened now. My family did not just use my money. They deliberately tied me to a massive debt. This is severe financial abuse. I need more proof. I open my personal laptop. I log into my email account. I search for my old emails. I type the word refinance into the search bar. I filter the results by date. I scroll back exactly 2 months. There it is. I find an automated email about the refinance from exactly 2 months ago. When I received it, I did not open it. I thought it was just standard promotional spam. Seeing the exact date on that email triggers a specific memory. I experience a flashback. 2 months ago, I was at my parents' house in Naperville. I was there because they only remember I exist when something breaks and needs to be fixed. I was fixing their internet router. My mother walked into the room. She was holding a digital tablet. I remember her exact words. She handed me the tablet and said, "Just sign some routine bank papers." Because I was distracted, and because I was conditioned to obey her, I did not read the screen. I just signed my name on the tablet. I trusted her. They used my trust to commit fraud. My mother, Elaine, is a narcissistic parent who is obsessed with her social image. She orchestrated this crime right in front of my face. My family needs me, but they do not need me to exist. They only love the version of me that pays. I close my laptop. I have the evidence. I know exactly what I must do next. I am going to hire a lawyer. I do not confront my family immediately. I know that talking to my mother, Elaine, or my sister, Chloe, will not solve anything. They will just lie to me, or they will tell me that I am overreacting. They will try to use my sense of obligation to make me accept the $720,000 debt. I will not accept it. I am a senior structural engineer. When I find a critical flaw in a building's foundation, I do not argue with the materials. I bring in the heavy equipment to fix it. I need a professional who understands exactly how to dismantle a financial crime. I hire a lawyer named Victor Lang. Victor Lang is a cold and highly sharp lawyer. His office is located in a tall glass building in downtown Chicago. I schedule an appointment with him for a Thursday morning. I take a half-day off from my engineering job. I gather all the printed documents, the bank notices, the email records, and my notes from the phone call with the bank manager, Daniel Harper. I put everything into a thick, structured folder. I walk into Victor Lang's office. He sits behind a large wooden desk. He does not ask me about my feelings. He does not offer me comforting words about family trauma. This is exactly why I hired him. I only want to deal with the facts. I sit across from him and place the folder on his desk. I tell him the entire story from the beginning. I explain the 4 years of paying the $4,800 monthly mortgage. I explain the public humiliation on social media. Finally, I explain the recent discovery of the $720,000 refinance loan. Victor opens the folder. He reviews the documents in complete silence for 20 minutes. He looks at the automated bank email. He looks at the forged signature on the final page of the contract. He takes a yellow notepad and writes down a timeline of events. Then he looks up at me. He delivers his legal assessment. Your family deliberately stole your identity to secure a line of credit, Victor says. They bypassed bank security protocols. This is felony-level financial fraud. Hearing the word felony, spoken out loud in a professional law office, makes the situation completely real. I am not dealing with difficult parents anymore. I am dealing with criminals. I ask Victor what we need to do next. He is very clear and highly organized. He outlines a direct legal strategy. We must immediately gather all the technical evidence to prove my innocence. Over the next few days, Victor and I work together to build an impenetrable case. We demand the full technical records from the bank. We collect the exact access logs from the bank's digital portal. We record the precise timestamps of when the document was opened and when the signature was applied. We verify the IP address that matches my parents' home network in the Naperville suburb. We print out the entire 70-page refinance contract. We document exactly how my mother used the old joint account to bypass the two-factor authentication system. Victor compiles all of this technical data into a master legal file. The evidence is absolute. It is a perfect, logical sequence of facts proving that I was not the person who authorized the loan. Once the evidence is secured, Victor initiates the legal war. He executes 3 specific actions on my behalf. First, he files a formal fraud dispute directly with the bank's legal department. This document forces the bank to acknowledge that their security was breached and that my signature is a forgery. Second, he files an injunction to freeze the loan account. This is the most critical step. My parents and my sister have a $720,000 credit line available to them. We must stop them from withdrawing any more cash. If they spend the money, it will be incredibly difficult to recover. Victor's legal order locks the account completely. The bank complies. The money is frozen. Third, he prepares the paperwork to file a direct lawsuit against them. I sign all the legal authorization forms on Victor's desk. I do not feel any hesitation. I do not feel any guilt. For 35 years, my family conditioned me to believe that I was responsible for their mistakes. They made me believe I had to stay quiet. But that version of me is gone. They killed that version of me when they excluded me from their anniversary party and then stole my identity. I leave Victor Lang's office and walk out onto the streets of Chicago. The weather is cold and clear. The legal trap is set. The loan is frozen. The bank is investigating. I know that my family will discover the frozen account very soon. They will not be able to access the cash. I know they will finally contact me, not to apologize, but to demand that I fix the problem. I am completely ready for them. Exactly 3 days after my lawyer, Victor Lang, successfully freezes the $720,000 loan account, my family finally contacts me. They do not send a text message to apologize for what they did. They do not call me to explain why they forged my signature. Instead, my family arranges a brunch. I know exactly why they are doing this. Their exact purpose is to force me to return to paying the money. They want to sit down in a public place and manipulate me. They expect me to unfreeze the bank account, accept the massive debt, and go back to being their quiet, obedient financial source. I decide to accept the invitation. I want to look them directly in the eyes when I show them the evidence of their crime. The brunch is scheduled for Sunday morning at a high-end, expensive cafe in Naperville. This is the same wealthy suburb where my parents live and where I paid their $4,800 monthly mortgage for 4 years. I drive from my apartment in Chicago to the suburb. I park my car and walk into the restaurant. The restaurant is very crowded and loud. I see them sitting at a table in the corner. My mother, Elaine, is wearing an expensive outfit and her hair is perfectly styled. She cares deeply about her social image in this suburb, and she wants to look wealthy. My sister, Chloe, is sitting next to her, looking down at her smartphone. My father, Richard, is sitting across from them, staring quietly at his water glass. I walk over to the table and sit down. I do not smile. I do not ask how they are doing. They immediately start gaslighting me. My mother leans forward. She puts a completely artificial smile on her face. She uses a very soft, patronizing tone of voice. She treats me like I am a child who does not understand basic mathematics. It is just a misunderstanding, my mother says. She wants me to believe that a $720,000 loan taken out in my name without my knowledge is simply a minor administrative error at the bank. Chloe puts her smartphone face down on the table. She joins the manipulation to support our mother. Chloe looks at me with absolute confidence. She speaks as if she is stating an undeniable fact. The bank is wrong, Chloe says. She expects me to simply accept her lie and ignore the official bank documents. I look at my father. I wait for him to speak. He is a passive man who always avoids conflict. He knows exactly what his wife and his younger daughter did to me. He knows they bypassed the electronic security and forged my signature. But my father remains completely silent. He chooses to be loyal to his wife's lies rather than protect his oldest daughter. I do not argue with them. I do not raise my voice or show any anger. I act exactly like a senior structural engineer presenting a failure report. I reach into my leather bag and pull out the thick legal folder my lawyer prepared. I place the documents directly on the table. The heavy folder makes a loud noise next to their coffee cups. I open the folder. I pull out the 70-page contract. I show them the exact refinance document with a fake signature at the bottom. I point my finger at the specific page. I also pull out the access logs. I point to the timestamps and the IP address that matches their home network. I show them the exact proof of how they used the old joint account to bypass the two-factor authentication. Chloe looks at the hard evidence on the table. Her confident expression immediately disappears. She realizes that her lies will not work. She becomes defensive and angry. "You are going too far," Chloe tells me. I do not look away from her. I keep my voice completely flat and neutral. "You went further when you stole my identity," I reply. My mother tries to intervene again. She panics because she is losing control of the situation. She opens her mouth to tell another lie to protect her perfect image. I do not let her speak. I take out my cell phone. I open my saved audio files. I play a voicemail of my mother begging for money. This is an old voicemail she left me when she was desperate for cash to fund her lifestyle. I press play, and turn the volume up to the maximum level. The sound of her pathetic, pleading voice plays out loud in the middle of the expensive cafe. The contrast is absolute. The proud, wealthy woman sitting in front of me is instantly destroyed by the recording of her own desperate voice. Hearing her own voice exposing the truth, my mother collapses. Her perfect posture fails. She sinks down into her chair. Her face turns pale. She finally realizes that she can no longer control me with guilt, and she cannot manipulate hard evidence. I stand up from the table. I look at the three of them one last time. They are the people who raised me, but they only love the version of me that pays their bills. I state my final action clearly. I have filed a fraud report, I announce. I do not wait for their reaction. I do not wait for my father to finally speak. I turn around and leave the restaurant. I walk out the front door, get into my car, and drive back to Chicago. The confrontation is over. 5 months pass after I walk out of the cafe in Naperville. During these 5 months, I completely block my mother, my father, and my sister on my cell phone. I block their email addresses. I do not speak to them at all. I focus entirely on my job as a senior structural engineer. I let my lawyer, Victor Lang, handle all communication regarding the $720,000 fraudulent refinance loan. Because I froze the massive credit line and because I permanently stopped paying the $4,800 monthly mortgage, my parents run out of money very quickly. They do not have the income to support a $1.1 million house. They do not have the income to pay for luxury cars or expensive steakhouse dinners. They cannot pay their bills. The bank does not wait. The bank officially begins the foreclosure process on their house. One Tuesday morning, a real estate agent sent by the bank arrives at my parents' property in the Naperville suburb. The agent walks onto the large front grass. The agent drives a large wooden sign into the ground. The sign clearly reads, "Bank owned." My mother, Elaine, built her entire life around her social image. She cares desperately about her status in this wealthy suburb. She spent decades pretending to be a highly successful, rich woman. She controlled me with guilt just to maintain this fake image. Now the fake image is completely gone. The neighbors see the bank-owned sign on the lawn. The neighbors are wealthy and observant. They begin to gossip constantly about my parents' financial failure. My mother can no longer attend local social events. She cannot go to the country club or the local cafes because everyone knows the bank took her house. My mother loses her social reputation in the suburb completely. My younger sister, Chloe, faces much more severe consequences. Chloe is the golden child who lived a fake influencer lifestyle on social media. She always believed she deserved to be funded by other people without working. But Chloe actively participated in bypassing the bank's electronic security to forge my signature. Because of this, Chloe is placed under a formal criminal investigation by the authorities. The police and the bank investigators look into her digital history. They track the IP address and the two-factor authentication bypass back to her devices. When Chloe realizes she is going to face criminal charges for felony fraud, she panics completely. She cannot handle the reality of her actions. She can no longer post photos of expensive clothes and pretend her life is perfect. Chloe completely deletes all of her social media accounts. The influencer lifestyle is over. My father, Richard, remains exactly who he has always been. He is a passive man who avoids conflict. He watched his wife and his younger daughter commit a financial crime against his oldest daughter, and he did nothing to stop it. Now he watches the bank take his house. He watches his wife cry about the neighbors gossiping. He watches his younger daughter face a criminal investigation. My father remains completely quiet. He does not try to fight the bank, and he does not try to apologize to me. He just sits in the house and waits to be evicted. I observe all of this from a distance. Victor Lang sends me formal legal updates every few weeks. I sit in my quiet, clean apartment in Chicago, and I read the documents detailing their complete ruin. I do not feel any guilt. I do not feel sad for them. I analyze the situation purely based on cause and effect, just like an engineer analyzes a collapsed building. They built their entire lives on a foundation of lies and stolen money. When I removed my financial support, their structure failed. I did not destroy them. The truth did. The legal process takes many months, but it finally reaches its absolute conclusion. My lawyer, Victor Lang, builds an impenetrable case using the digital access logs, the timestamps, and the IP address records. Because the evidence is entirely factual and technical, the bank and the authorities have no choice but to accept the truth. The court issues its final, official ruling. The judge explicitly states that I am completely innocent of the felony financial fraud. The legal system formally removes my name from the $720,000 refinance contract. The massive debt is transferred permanently back to my parents. They committed the crime, and now they hold the full weight of the financial penalty. A few days after the court issues the ruling, I sit at my desk in my Chicago apartment. I open my personal email account. I see a new message from the bank's legal department. I click on the email. The message is incredibly brief. There is no long explanation and no apology for their system failure. The email simply says, "Case closed." I stare at those two words on my computer screen. The legal war is over. I place my hands on the keyboard. I type a simple, two-word reply. I write, "Thank you." I click send. After I send that email, I realize something fundamental about my environment. I no longer want to live in Chicago. The city is geographically too close to the Naperville suburb. It is too close to the memories of my mother's obsession with her social image, my father's passive silence, and my sister's influencer lifestyle. I need a complete physical separation from my past. I go to my office. I work as a senior structural engineer. I speak to my management team, and I formally request a job transfer to a different state. Because of my high performance and disciplined work history, they approve my request immediately. I pack up my entire life into cardboard boxes. I leave the Midwest behind, and I move across the country to Seattle. My new apartment in Seattle is small, but it has very large windows that let in a lot of natural light. It is a massive downgrade in physical size compared to the $1.1 million house my parents used to own in Illinois. But I do not care about the size. The space is entirely mine, and it is safe. For the first time in my adult life, my environment is completely silent. I do not receive family bills in the mail anymore. I do not have to log into my bank account to pay a $4,800 monthly mortgage. There are no more desperate phone calls from my mother asking me to rescue them from their financial mistakes. There are no more imposed responsibilities weighing me down. I do not have to fix anyone's internet, pay anyone's hospital bills, or fund anyone's lifestyle. I am only responsible for myself. I sit in my well-lit living room, and I think about the psychology of my family. I understand the dynamic perfectly now. My sister, Chloe, was the golden child, and I was simply the financial source. My parents engaged in severe financial abuse because they believed I would never fight back. They cared more about the family image culture in their wealthy suburb than they cared about their own daughter. Sometimes, I think about how this entire collapse started with a single Instagram post of their 40th wedding anniversary party. They thought they could just hide me away from the public and keep taking my money. But I understand the truth of the situation. I did not leave my family. They erased me first. They just forgot that I was the structural load-bearing pillar of their entire lives. They only loved the version of me that paid. My family needed me to provide for them, but they did not need me to exist as a person. When I stopped paying, their entire structure collapsed. I do not feel any guilt about their current ruin. I did not destroy them. The truth did. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, I unpack the very last of my moving boxes. At the bottom of one cardboard box, I find an old physical photograph.
It is a picture of my family.
I look at the printed faces of my mother, Elaine, my father, Richard, and my sister, Chloe. I look at their smiles. I do not feel anger anymore. I do not feel sadness. I just feel a profound sense of distance. I do not tear the photo apart. I do not burn it. I simply place the photo inside a small box and put the lid on it. I put the box away in a closet, out of sight. I walk over to the large window in my Seattle apartment. I stand there and look outside at the steady Seattle rain. The apartment is quiet, warm, and secure. I take a deep breath. Peace is the most expensive thing I ever bought. But it is the only investment no one can ever steal from me. Even though I live in my new apartment in Seattle, the legal system continues to operate. I still receive official updates from my lawyer, Victor Lang. The civil case regarding the bank and the $720,000 fraudulent refinance loan is completely closed. However, the criminal case against my younger sister, Natalie Vaughn, continued for several more months. I read the legal documents he sends me. I read them purely as factual reports, exactly like I read engineering blueprints. Chloe is 28 years old. For her entire life, my parents treated her as the golden child of our family. She never had a traditional job. She lived an influencer lifestyle. She spent her time posting photos on social media. She genuinely believed she deserved to be financially supported by others without having to work. She believed she was special. But the bank investigators and the local police do not care about her social media status. They only care about digital evidence. The authorities proved that Chloe actively participated in the felony financial fraud. They tracked the IP address and the electronic access logs directly to her personal devices. They proved that she was the person who bypassed the two-factor authentication on the old joint account. She did this to forge my signature and steal my identity. When the police formally charged her, Chloe completely panicked. She could not manipulate the police like she manipulated our parents. She immediately deleted all of her social media accounts. She erased her public profile because she did not want her followers to know she was a criminal. She went from showing off expensive champagne at luxury steakhouses in downtown Chicago to hiding from the law. Her living situation also collapsed. Because I permanently stopped paying the $4,800 monthly mortgage, the bank foreclosed on the $1.1 million house in the Naperville suburb. The bank evicted my family. My parents had to move out. This meant Chloe also lost her place to live. She could no longer live in a large, wealthy house for free. According to the final legal documents Victor Lang sent me, Chloe could not escape the evidence. She now has a formal criminal record for financial fraud. Because she has a criminal record, and because she has no actual work experience, her options are very limited. She does not have my money to fund her lifestyle anymore. For the first time in her life, Chloe is forced to face reality. She has to find a standard, low-paying job. She has to work a set schedule, follow rules, and earn her own money just to survive. My mother, Elaine, cannot rescue her. My mother completely lost her social image and her status in the suburb. My father, Richard, remains completely passive and does nothing to help either of them. I sit in my quiet, well-lit apartment in Seattle. I fold the legal document. I place it in a file cabinet. I do not feel sad for my sister. I do not feel any guilt. Chloe is an adult. She chose to steal my identity. She chose to participate in a scheme to access $720,000 in my name. She made these choices because she thought I would stay quiet and just accept the debt. She was wrong. My family only loved the version of me that paid. I do not pay them anymore. I close the file cabinet. I look out the large window at the city. My life is completely my own. I did not destroy them. The truth did. The story of Natalie Vaughn is not merely about a $720,000 financial fraud lawsuit. It is a profoundly deep and raw psychological portrait of the darkest corners that can exist within the concept of family. Through her journey from a disciplined provider to a victim of fraud, and finally to someone brave enough to stand up for her liberation, the entire story leaves an incredibly powerful message about self-worth, the destructive nature of greed, and the true price of freedom. First, familial love should never be equated with blind sacrifice. For many years, protagonist Natalie's biggest weakness was her deep sense of obligation to her blood relatives. She shouldered a $4,800 monthly mortgage for 4 grueling years, totaling approximately $230,000, just to keep a $1.1 million roof over her parents' heads in the Naperville suburb. However, this massive sacrifice brought no love, protection, or any acknowledgement from them. The cruel reality proved that a narcissistic mother like Elaine only sees her daughter as a financial tool to maintain her social image and suburban status, completely failing to see her as a human being worthy of love. Meanwhile, a passive, conflict-avoidant father like Richard would rather remain loyal to his wife's wrongdoings than protect his own exploited flesh and blood. Your dedication in a toxic environment will only be taken for granted, just as Natalie bitterly realized in her memories. They only remember I exist when something breaks. Second, we must learn to face a cruel truth. Some people only love what you provide for them, never who you truly are. The peak of Natalie's emotional trauma did not stem from lifeless bills, but from the photo at the 40th wedding anniversary party with her sister Chloe's mocking caption, "Family only." Finally complete. The moment she realized she was completely erased from the family photo was a devastating internal shock, a cold affirmation that, my family needs me, but they do not need me to exist. The injustice had been glaring since childhood, when the messy scribbles of the golden child, Chloe, were proudly framed by their mother, while Natalie's national award was thrown into a drawer with the threat, "Don't show off." They dismissed all her efforts, using limited seating as an excuse to erase her presence during the most important occasions, yet shamelessly used her money to entertain neighbors and distant relatives. The harshest truth exposed is, they only love the version of me that pays. Third, silence and endurance in the face of familial evil will only lead to more cruel abuse. When Natalie started fighting back by leaving a public comment and cutting off the financial supply, her family showed no remorse or self-reflection. Instead, her mother texted to scold her for humiliating the family, while her sister Chloe played the victim online with a sarcastic post. Some people forget who raised them. More terrifyingly, they escalated from emotional abuse to an actual criminal act of financial abuse. By exploiting her trust with the phrase, "Just sign some routine bank papers," and using an old joint account to bypass the electronic two-factor authentication system, they forged her signature to saddle her with a massive $720,000 refinance loan. This detail sounds a profound alarm. Narcissists and those with a deeply ingrained sense of entitlement, like the selfish influencer sister, will never have moral boundaries. When you stop giving, they will find every way to take. Natalie's decision to hire the sharp lawyer Victor Lang to gather evidence, freeze the loan, and file a fraud lawsuit proves that sometimes strict legal action is the only language manipulators understand. Confronting their gaslighting at the brunch, Natalie firmly exposed their deceit with a statement. "You went further when you stole my identity." Fourth, glamorous facades built on exploitation will eventually have to pay the price and collapse on their own. Just 5 months after the confrontation, the $1 million house was foreclosed by the bank with a bank-owned sign planted right on the lawn, causing the mother to completely lose her prestige and face amidst the neighbors' gossip. The father remained mired in his cowardly silence, and most notably, the sister Chloe had to delete her social media entirely when facing the legal consequences of a criminal investigation. When the sole foundation, Natalie's financial sacrifice, was pulled away, that entire fake family structure automatically crumbled. True to Natalie's powerful assertion, "I did not destroy them. The truth did." We don't need to personally take revenge on those who hurt us. Their own greed, lies, and wrongdoings will dictate their tragic fate. Finally, true rebirth and peace only appear when you dare to let go of toxic expectations. The journey of the story closes beautifully with the image of Natalie moving into a small but light-filled apartment in Seattle. There, she no longer receives family bills, no longer has to listen to manipulative rescue calls, and completely sheds imposed responsibilities. Even though the court declared her innocent and the bank sent a case closed notice, her greatest victory lies in her mind. Her act of calmly putting the old family photo into a small box instead of tearing it up shows absolute maturity and liberation. No more resentment, no more torment, only a necessary distance to protect her own soul. When anyone judges you for cutting ties with blood relatives, remember the clear boundary of truth. I did not leave my family. They erased me first. The final message lingering through the image of the girl watching the quiet Seattle rain is a vital truth. We often trade our sweat, tears, and even financial future just to try to hold onto an illusion of a family home. But a true home is not built on exploitation or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. It must be built on unconditional respect. When you realize you are draining yourself in a toxic environment, have the courage to walk away. Always engrave in your heart, peace is the most expensive thing I ever bought, and peace is the only investment no one can ever steal. Never trade your own life to feed the bottomless greed of others.